Do you have any railings or anything anywhere?
Yeah, if you go to sheet or page 9.
Oh, there we go. That there.
Yeah, it's to match existing.
Okay.
And then there's a paint color called out on the color material board for all of the metal railings.
So is that your concern there, Bill?
That was, and then my last question was just, and sorry, I'm just catching up on the landscape lighting there.
Yes,
Just,
exactly. That's what I wanted to look at.
check. It didn't look like, I mean, you have a lot of fixtures called out.
Well, and they are, Scott, you want to run over that with us? How close their spacing and things of that nature? Please?
Yeah, there's 3 fixture types. The one fixture type that we're using most predominantly is a path light. That's the circle with the plus sign through it. And those are every 15 feet on center. It's a 4-watt LED.
Is that this guy here?
It's fixture C
I
at the
think
bottom of that
yeah,
sheet.
Oh.
down lower. It's the normal FX hooded light.
Okay, all right.
Now, we have some instances where we have a staircase like off the west end of the new pool that has boulders adjacent to it to help retain the grade. And instead of using that fixture C, I'm using fixture A, which will allow us to kind of aim the downlight or path light over the boulders and onto the stairs.
Do you use this fixture anywhere?
Well, he says option 1 and option 2. Scott, which is your preferred option, please?
Option A is my preferred, but it's more expensive and not as readily available. So that's why I've listed an alternative in case there was an issue with cost or lead time.
Okay.
And then the third fixture I'm using is a step light. It's a really small 2-watt LED step light, and we're putting those in the sidewalls adjacent to the 2 existing staircases at the tennis court. And I'm locating them. Typically, I like to locate step lights 1 every 3 treads due to the quantities in each run. It worked out much better to do every other stair tread. And since I'm using a little bit more lights than usual, I went with a lower. FX has the same step light in a 3 or a 4-watt LED or a 2-watt, and so I went with the lower wattage since there's a little more of them.
That's this fixture here.
That's correct, and it's the one that I have squared off. It's the source is completely shielded.
So do you have any comments, Bill?
So no uplighting or tree lights or any of that in here.
We're only illuminating paths of travel.
Okay. Yeah, no, those are all like my questions.
So Scott, I have a question. We normally see the FX shielded fixture with a 2-watt or even a 1-watt bulb, not a 4-watt. Do you want to comment about that, please?
Yeah, so FX does make a fixture just like that fixture C that has, they call it a 1 LED, but it's a 2-watt. I went with something a little bit stronger and spaced the lights out more. With a 2-watt, I would normally space those 10 to 12 feet on center. I went with a slightly stronger lamp and spaced it out more just to reduce quantities.
Bill, do you have a comment, please?
No. Yeah, I see you have a low LED, and you identified that somewhere too, so.
Yeah, in my legend on the plan sheet, I've called out the 3 LED option.
It's the third column over. I think it's probably going to be okay.
Yeah,
We have I don't know if you
Color.
reviewed everything, but we have a project later that they decided to bring Hollywood and Vine to Montecito, but we'll chat about that later.
okay.
Okay, so would you be prepared to recommend this to the full board for approval as submitted?
Yes, I would.
And so would I. So thank you all. We will look at that 10, 15 minutes. We've got elections, we've got COVID stuff. So it's going to take a couple of minutes to get through the administrative agenda.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mary and Scott, I'll hang on. I've got another item, so I'll report back if anything changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Sorry for the delay.
That's all right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, we got minutes and meeting schedule here. Okay. Okay, got Dawn and who else are we missing then?
Tip.
Is Tip on?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Start the meeting. It's 1:00. Start the Montecito Board of Architecture review agenda special meeting.
Is
February
Dave not going to be with us today?
No.
He's
I'm here. Yeah,
Oh, is Dave here?
It's
I'm
here.
here. I think
Oh,
I'm here.
yeah. Hey, Dave.
Hey,
Yay!
welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why aren't you in the office?
A couple of reasons.
Okay, there you go.
COVID and my surgery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. So, Dave, do you want me to continue moving the drawings around then?
Yeah, if you can, Bill.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Are you here for the whole meeting too, or not?
Yes.
Okay. So far.
My intent, yes.
Say that again, Dave. You're breaking up there.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. All right. So let's go on with our meeting, February 3rd, 2022. Special meeting in bar. Public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to items that are not on this agenda? Please
I
raise-
didn't receive anything, Bill.
Nothing? Okay.
Nobody has their hands up.
No hands, nobody seen, so we'll close public comment. Go on to item 2. We're going to circumstances of COVID.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should stay all virtual until the county releases the indoor mask mandate and just follow their lead, which I think is at least March 1st. I know we do this 30 days at a step, but to that extent, I would recommend or move that we continue as all virtual following the medical determinations made by the county.
I will second that.
All right, seconded by Don. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, John. Anything from the staff? You didn't have anything to add to that, Sharon, or?
So thank you for always doing that. I appreciate it. As you know, we're down Sam, we're down a person, and Claire is on vacation. So we have 5 people,
Yeah, okay.
5 members.
And give you an update on that. We're waiting on introducing a new member, and they're working through the paperwork through the offices. So we should hopefully hear from that person.
I'm going to check the agenda, Bill.
Okay, all right.
She's on it for next
Oh, okay, great.
Tuesday.
All right, let's go to item 3, election of chair and vice chair. There's been discussion, obviously, back and forth, and I'll be stepping down, and I'd like to nominate John Watt as chair, and Dave, if you want to continue as vice chair, that would be my nomination. So does anybody else have anything else?
I'd like to second that motion.
Second on motion, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. So do I hand the hat to you now, John, or,
Yes, I think so.
okay, all right.
So before I get started on the agenda status report, I'd like to thank Bill very much for his good, strong year of leadership here. I think he did a great job, and he deserves our recognition, I believe. So thank you, Bill.
Yes, I agree. Thanks.
He did a great job under adverse circumstances. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bill. It was a pleasure.
absolutely. Pleasure working
And
with
Dave,
you.
I would also like to thank you, even though you have decided to continue your service for one more year, at least. That may be a permanent job. You better be pretty careful.
Uh-oh.
You're just too good.
Really good. Okay, agenda status report. Kimberly, Sharon, anything, please?
The reader edition number 5, that's being continued.
Do I have a motion to that effect, please?
Motion to
Don't move.
item 5.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, do we know when, or just move to a future agenda, please?
It's, I believe it's going on the March 10th.
Okay, so let's just make it future agenda. All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, minutes of January 13th. Has anybody had a chance to review these? Are there any comments, please?
I do not.
Anybody else? Okay, I've got a couple of comments. Number one, it is unclear to me about Sam Maphis on this. There are some times when he's mentioned and sometimes when they are not. And I'm wondering, I can go through and be specific about it, but what?
I'll clean it up because, okay, honestly, I was going to leave him in because I didn't feel it was formally done in time. And then it just would have been, you know, so I will go through and remove his name.
Well, okay, I think that's fine. That's number one.
Thanks, Don. I'll go through right now and see where I did that.
Okay, on the second page, under the minutes, item number 5, there were 2 motions. On the second motion, it says Watson moves, second by, there is a repeat of the date on the second line. It says minutes of December 16th, and then it says and December 16th.
Got it.
So I think we should eliminate that, please. Okay, under C1, under the motion, in the second line, I'd like to eliminate that period and combine those 2 sentences. So it would say, carried by a vote of 5-zip to grant final approval with the roof, to remain or be replaced. So it's actually part of the motion. Okay, please.
Got it.
And item number 5, during the meeting, Adele Goja announced that her name was now, she went back to her old name, Yamada. And I think we ought to acknowledge that and change that. So it's Yamada, I believe.
Has it in the appearance.
That was her maiden name, yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, anybody else, please?
No.
Well,
Okay.
I understand that, but at the time of this meeting, at the time of this, whatever, I did, you know, not to be nitpicky, but at the time of this creation, her name was Adele Goja.
That's correct.
And then when I say continued from appearance, I put Adele Yamada.
Okay, I think that's good. That's fine. I didn't see that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, I just wanted to honor,
I understand, and I agree.
okay. Is there a motion for approval, please?
Yeah, I move to approve the minutes of
January 13th.
January 13th, 2022.
Is there a second, please?
I will second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Montecito.
And Sharon, I'm abstaining.
Thank you.
Item C1, Bill and I reviewed it. Claire was not here, as we all know. Bill, did you want to report to the committee about that?
Yeah, we reviewed the item 1 and give it approval as submitted.
And I concur with that. And so, Bill, was that a motion also?
Yes, I move to item C1, 956 Mariposa Lane.
And I will second that. Is there any further discussion? Hang on one second. I just got to make sure of something. That was for final only, so we don't have to ask for public. All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay,
Sharon, I'm recusing myself from that project.
Thank you.
okay. MBAR members informational briefings, please. Anybody do anything, go anywhere?
Nothing on my end.
Anybody else? No?
No.
Staff update, item number
No.
6. Any, Kimberly, Sharon?
No, thank you.
Nothing from staff, thank you.
Okay, items, regular agenda, standard agenda. Item number 1, Mr. Banks, 1355 Oak Creek Canyon Road, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brian Banks here, agent for the owner. We also have Britt here for architecture and Amy for landscape. As you see in the comments there, you last saw this project about a year ago. Subsequent to that conceptual meeting, we made some refinements to the plan submitted for our development plan. As a reminder, since we're in Oak Creek Canyon, the permit path is a development plan, discretionary action by the Montecito Planning Commission. So the hope today is that we receive positive comments and your ability to allow us to then proceed to Montecito Planning Commission. You'll have the comments there. Mostly they were directed, they were clarifications and questions about the retaining walls, and we've got those to present. You also have, you'll see there from our planner, Sean. We've been working with him, about 8 months now. And really what it boils down to, and I'll let you read the letter, but in summary is we're in a bit of a policy circle here, wherein in order to comply to the extent that we can with the Oak Creek Canyon subdivision map conditions and CC&Rs, to have natural grading contours and minimizing the overall kind of grading in the site. We were taking our export material and creating kind of a meadow to reduce the overall amount of export. I think we're down to about 1,500 cubic yards or so of export now. But then what happens is, as we try to recontour this area and make it more natural and rounded and so forth, then that jacks our export materials way up. So Sean rightly, and we thank him for this, thought it might, instead of going around and around for more months, that it might be good to get this all in the memo to the MBAR, to get a little bit of assistance in terms of those policy consistency things as they relate to specifically to grading. And of course, we do have the details that you requested last time for the retaining walls. And lastly, I'll just say that, just for context, our overall footprint of development is really pretty small in relation to the overall site. And the previous project that was approved here had like 7,000 cubic yards of grading with over 3,000 of export, we're at about 5,000 total with about 1,500 of export. So sometimes we just get lost in so precise, review of each project that sometimes it's good to just look at the overall context and how kind of small in relation to the other developments there this one is. And we hope that you'll take that into account as you're reviewing the plans. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Britt, and he can steer you through, and we'll give you.
Hang on, let's get, Sean, are you here? Can we we heard Brian's side, which is great. Can we hear your side, and then we can evaluate it as we go through? Would that be okay? Sean, are you on? I don't see you.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Get on board, members. I think Brian laid out a pretty fair here. There are some map conditions applicable to the project that would have to be met. The ones pertaining to aesthetics have been outlined in my planner memo. So it would be great to have your board specifically speak to those so we could have some comments memorialized in your minutes. And then as far as regarding the grading, we recognize this is a challenging site in terms of access, and Britt has gone so far as to parse out the grading numbers required for access. And so we can kind of look at what those are, as well as the grading numbers associated with structures and other site development. We've asked the applicant to explore possibly some more stepping of the site to kind of mimic the natural contours more, and see if they can move away from this sort of one consistent development plane, which is kind of in line with the base of the driveway. So I think that about summarizes the memo.
Okay, and Britt, when I believe you are aware of this memo, is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you please, along with your presentation, specifically address the issues in that memo, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Britt, tell me where you would like me to go as well.
I think you're fine right there for right now.
All right.
Actually, Britt, we might want to back up to page 2 just to give the board a reminder, since it's been over a year, of the whole site and where we're at on the site.
Okay.
Is it here?
Yeah, as you can see, the colored footprints on the top exhibit show the condition of buildings that we're proposing for the site. So it's a very light development of the site. Our FAR of conditioned structures is 35%. So I'd like to go back to PDF 4 real fast. This isn't a typical presentation where we focus on the design with respect to area, scale, and aesthetics. Today, we're looking at, for your design comments, with a focus on the consistency of development guidelines, and specifically grading. So as a refresher, it's a unique proposal. It's a group of small structures that define connected landscape courts. There's 3 components of the project, basically. One is site access, which is how we get down there and meet fire department standards. The other is the building site development and the resultant associated grading. So with respect to site access, we really focus on efficiency. So we come off the north property line with a 3-foot planter. We have a retaining wall, an additional 3-foot planter, and then the required drive access for the fire department. Laid in a hammerhead there, and then we have a utility road, or surface road that goes to an existing well. So all of that happens within the front setback. There's no, so it's super efficient. From there, we look at, well, what's the building pad elevation going to be? So when we run our site sections and take existing grade and offset it by 19 feet, and then go down from there, we know that the highest finished grade for our development that still meets height standards is at the 617 level. So we haven't done any extra grading. We've kept the pad as high as possible to meet the height standards. The building pad also is only about 35 feet in depth, and it runs parallel to the contours. So that's consistent with what we would see on a view-oriented development on a property like this, where you have a hallway and then rooms and then some associated outdoor areas. So nothing about our pad is inconsistent with the neighborhood development. If you want to go to, let's see, PDF 2, that'll show you how we compare with other developments in the neighborhood. So what I did was I because this is a unique property we're in, the outside courtyards defined by our buildings are as important as the buildings themselves. What I did, let's go to the bottom graphic there, and Sean has been commenting on the pad being a single elevation, but on the right side of the lower graphic there, you'll see there's a garage, and then there's a guest house that also has a garage associated. Those are at the same elevation because they share the arrival courtyard. And then the studio that's a part of the attached to the garage shares a second outdoor courtyard to the left of that one. And so those two have to be at the same elevation because that building, shares two courtyards. And so what we did is, as we moved to the left of the site or to the west, the main house does drop down 1 foot. What I did was I took all of even the outside areas and I toned them in blue, and then I looked at that, and let's go to the top exhibit, and compared it to the neighbors on Oak Creek Canyon, just to see, how our footprint, including our outside areas, compared to the footprints of the adjacent houses. And you can see that we're at an 8,000 square foot footprint, plus or minus, with all of our outdoor spaces. And you look at the enclosed areas as shown on the map, and they're in the neighborhood of 8 and 10. So the fact that we have a single level works to the concept that we have, but is consistent with the neighborhood. So then let's talk about the associated grading that goes along with that. So we can go to PDF 3, please. Okay, so this is the exhibit that shows where we are with the built area, and then below is the two maps. The first map is the one that we had previously. It was our previous version wherein we tried to capture as much of the fill as possible on site. And then the one to the right is our new one that takes out a substantial amount of the grading. Our first scheme had 1,500 cubic yards of export, and now, or 900 cubic yards of export. This one has 1,500, but what we did was we manipulated the lower portion of the site to reduce the number of retaining walls and contour the fill that was resultant of our pad access and access, so that it met the standards that Sean was bringing to our attention, and we wanted to have more naturalistic contours. Let's go to PDF 5. So one of the comments that you wanted made was you wanted to see more detail on how we are dealing with our walls. So here you can see a 3D view of how we access the site, and starting at the road, the planting pocket, the first wall, and then the second wall. Part of our strategy of breaking down the scale of the walls was to add these tree pockets, and they've got these 45-degree angles to them. So they're gonna create, lighter and darker shadows based on the way the sun hits them, and serve to camouflage and break down the scale of the walls from a distance. The guardrails are done in a perforated design that's based on precedents that we see on the Riviera, and overall the transparency of the guardrail and the way that we've detailed these tree pockets so that we get mature high planting in there, and then low landscape, and then some draping type plant material is going to diminish the impact of the walls. Let's go to PDF 5. Is that where we are?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, there was some extras that were Sean brought in that weren't a part of the first package. I think I saw you had them up pretty early. They relate to site sections that the board asked for that shows compatibility or the screening from the neighbor.
Southern
To the south, neighbor to the south.
Correct. So there's another folder that has 3 other exhibits in it that have
Brent, you can also go to page 9 and we have the sheet that shows the neighbor to the south on that, if that is helpful.
All right. Anyway, we did some site sections. There's existing landscape that, yeah, so this is the exhibit that I wanted to show. There's site screening that exists at the property line. The existing site screening provides a visual shadow to our proposed development, and it's in the sections on that page. We've also started to bring in some mature oak trees to plant along that property line. And the real reason is that, you know, they have a flat roof with mechanical equipment, and our client would like to screen the view also. So that's pretty much how the site was developed. I think that, you know, it was a policy-driven solution based on, you know, the fire department standards, grading standards, and also height limits that set up how we get to the site, what the pad elevation is, and the size of the pad elevation. The resulting grading quantities then were distributed across the lower portion of the site, trying to comply as much as we could to creating a naturalistic landscape forms down there. We feel that the solution we're showing now is better than what we had before. We're trying to reduce export as much as possible, but we feel like this new map is far more consistent with what the policy wanted to see. So with that, I'll let Amy talk about what the plant materials are that are associated with the retaining wall system.
Could we go to PDF sheet 22, please?
And the south property line, please, Amy.
Yes.
Thank
So as you can see from the planting plan along the south side, there are some existing mature oak trees that are along that side. We're also proposing a significant hedge of Prunus salicifolia that goes just on the south side of exactly right there, all the way along that stretch. There's another line of hedging just to the north of that, between that and the meadow. That'll be another source of screening. And additionally, in response to the planning letter requirements, items number 4 and 5, we've included some tree material on the south side of the structures as well. So up towards the guest house and the garage building, we've got some magnolia little gems and some citrus. There's also some maton trees and cork oaks that exist kind of on the south and southeast portion below the garden house, so south and east below the garden house. So that was in response to the planning requirement letters. We also were responding to a requirement for fire resistant plant materials, which we have included a really high percentage of fire resistant plants. I think we're somewhere around 85% of the plants specified are considered fire resistant by the fire department. And then the only additional comment regarding landscape, and we have filled it out since the last time you guys reviewed the project, but item number 3 from the comments from the last review was just to ensure that all the walls were properly and appropriately screened with landscaping. So along the driveway, we have lined the site walls with Laurus nobilis bay, which, you know, has the genetic capacity to get quite tall. I think we could easily be at 12 feet with that if we wanted to. So up towards the north of the driveway. And then the driveway is also lined with magnolia little gem. And then we have some Italian cypress going in there too to interrupt it vertically. And then star jasmine specified as the ground cover that'll trail and also can be trained up onto the wall as well. And I think that kind of addresses most of the comments. But I think just to bring it back to site context, if we could go back to the PDF sheet 3. So just to point out that the majority, the great majority of the site is going to be left natural. We have brought in a few additional oak trees because several were damaged with the fire and also with our inadequate rain for the last couple of years. So we've been tending to and taking care of those. But just to kind of give context to the whole site, that this development is really just happening on the east side. And that concludes my presentation.
So
I'd like to see the files I was looking for is on the second tab at the top.
Up here.
All the way up on the black bar up there, that it says Oak Creek Canyon MBAR 220203. Right down below where your cursor is right now. There's a tab that you didn't open. No.
It's another folder.
There it is right there.
It's another folder.
Oh, here. Oh,
yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. So there's a nice 3D view of what we're talking about with how we're dealing with the site access walls. None of them are over 8 feet tall. And then there's another couple exhibits that are the ones that I was referencing that are specific to the neighbor views. So if we go scroll down to a couple more exhibits, they are the ones that identify the views. There you go. So this is the site sections that you asked for through the neighboring property and through our development. And then that's how they're located. That shows our existing site trees. And then this is our analysis of what the existing site trees are. The darker blue here represents the view shadow created by those trees, showing that our development is not going to impact the lower neighbor.
Are you now done? Brady?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, questions of the board. For this item, I'm going to go Tip, Dave, Don, Bill, John. So Tip on everything. So Tip, could you lead us off, please? Tip.
Maybe it won't be Tip.
Yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
questions.
I actually don't have any questions. Thank you.
David?
I don't have any questions, John. Thanks.
Don?
No questions.
Bill?
So just to get my brain on it, the reason the meadow is as flat as it is because you're trying to keep as much grade on site. You don't want to export it off of there. So you're excavating, creating the flat pad to get your fire access that we know you need, and then placing a good part of it down in there in the meadow.
Right, there was 3 components, like I said: the site access, which is super efficient, the building pad, which is consistent with the neighborhood, the fill that was, or the export that was left over became fill in the lower area, responding to our planner initial letter, wherein we tried to keep as much of it on site as possible. We recontoured that, got rid of some retaining walls, and are now exporting 600 cubic yards more than what the earlier proposal was.
Got it. And I see a mixture of rock and plaster wall. Is there a reason why you didn't keep it all the same?
I think that part of that particular exhibit is not up to date. We're looking at this one as a way of illustrating the retaining walls up front. We're in the process of working out what the material are on those lower walls, but the upper portion of this exhibit is really the part that I wanted to focus on.
Got it. And the last question, the guardrail, are you doing 42 inches? Is it a plaster curb that goes up 12 and then 36 on top of that or something?
Yeah, we have to meet a guardrail height standard because it's a more than a 30-inch drop on the other side.
Right. Yeah. So you got to go 42 on that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I have 2 questions. If we look at this particular drawing, we notice that there's some stairs in the right-hand side of that motor court, which is, I presume, if I remember right, leading over to another development owned by the same person. Is that correct?
Those stairs just lead from the main building pad down to what is the landscape lower
No.
portion of the development envelope, but they do not connect to the neighboring parcel, no.
Okay, so above the detached two-car garage, there's some stairs, not the ones below it, but above
That's
it.
correct. Those are an access between the two properties, which are owned by the same owner.
Okay, so the question is, will the two developments as seen together substantially increase the majesty of this property and make it inconsistent with the other single developments that are out there? Because it's all one unified development. Britt?
I don't think so, because I think that the existing house functions as a standalone estate. This is a low impact development that has all of the components that, you know, meet the standards. You know, it has a kitchen and has bedrooms and
Yes, but visually, I'm just talking visually, won't it feel as if they are connected, and therefore the estate, it will appear to be a much larger development than if it is bifurcated by a property line?
I don't think so, because I don't think anybody's gonna know those stairs are there other than the owner.
Well, I was thinking about people driving by, not knowing about it. Just visually, as you go by, is it going to feel like a large compound?
I would argue that because the only connection between those two properties is that stairs that you just talked about, this has its own gate, has its own ramp, has its own garages, has a house, has a developed landscape component to it. They are going to appear as from the road, two separate developments. But the interest of the owner was to have a sort of a secret way to go into a secondary part of their property that was a garden development. And I think that the way we have developed this, especially because each of them has their own fire access standards and everything else, they're going to have all of the infrastructure of a standalone estate.
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind too is that all of these developments have building envelopes that dictate kind of locations where all of the built stuff can be built, and so that goes into, you know, how things are cited as well. There's limited options where we can put stuff.
Okay, so thank you very much. My second question, this is an excellent drawing to look at. On the right-hand side of your development, you have a garage building, and then to the left, you have a guest house. Would it not be possible to reduce the grading and create a more natural visual look from the south by not having that flat walkway between it and the path down below, but to grade up to it in some kind of a natural landform as opposed to a stepped landform? And wouldn't that be more consistent with the requirements of either the Hillside District or this subdivision? I'm not quite sure where this memo came out of.
So we're talking about that path there.
Yeah, and directly below the guest house and the garage, bring that slope all the way up to the buildings so that it integrates in, it doesn't step down. Now, I understand what you're doing. The question is, would it be more natural if you did it the way I'm suggesting right here?
I think that where it says path and then we have those long stairs there, that the opportunity to reduce or the formality of that path is certainly on the table. Yeah, that one right there. And as we're looking at the grading, that wall is marginally useful. I mean, we could definitely increase our pitch right there and get rid of that wall.
Very good. Okay, any other questions before I open it? Public comment, please. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board on, what's this, 1355 Oak Creek Canyon Road, please?
I don't see anybody's hands and I didn't receive anything, John.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to comments. Same order. Tip, do you have any comments about this project? What they want is for us to give positive comments, and they want to head off to the planning commission. They may not be ready, but that's what they're looking for. So could you please take over, Chip?
Yeah, personally, I don't have a problem with the way they lay out the site, spreading things out, and it's a complicated site. And the grading is definitely a little more excessive than what I like to see, but the whole Oak Creek Canyon area, it's a very difficult area to build anything just because of the building envelope and the way the existing environment, contour lines and everything else. So I don't have an issue with what is being proposed.
Okay, David, please. David
Yes.
Mandro.
Well, to start with, I want to acknowledge how difficult and challenging this site is. And with the building envelope constraints, that just limits the options too. So I think the key to successful development on this property is balancing the impacts of the grading and the development with the site. And I think they've done a good job in that. I think they indicated that this project has less grading than the previously approved project. And what really makes this design work for me is the way they've broken up the structures. I think having the separate structures with the landscape in between really helps diminish the mass, bulk, and scale of the project. And I think the formal terracing works with this design, and then transitioning more into the natural slopes. I like the suggestion of that we just discussed about maybe getting rid of that last wall, that last step down, and bringing the existing site contours up to the guest house and the garage. I think the landscape plan is very successful too, in screening the project from the neighbor and mitigating the requirements of the drive turnaround by having the planters and the tree wells. So overall, this is more grading than I'd like to see, the same as what Tip just said, but there's just no way to develop the site without having some impacts. And I think this design is successful in doing that.
Don Sharp, please.
Oh, I certainly want to echo Tip's comments as well as Dave's. I think because it's such a tight and difficult site, that this solution is superb. And I'm not concerned about John's question of the neighboring property looking like one large estate, because I think a subtle color change in the exterior and the detailing and so forth, it's never going to look like one large project. Thank you.
Bill, please.
Yeah, I want to commend you, Britt, for putting a lot of good effort into your presentation. It's very helpful to see all of that. And I think you've come up with a good solution here. I do like the idea of maybe blending it in and doing whatever you can to try and, if you can eliminate some of the hardscapes in here and get the plant materials to come up to this wall. It may just work any better anyway, because it seems to be a path to kind of nowhere in a way. I don't have a concern with the separation of the two structures. I think you've got quite a grade change here, it looks like. And it looks like it's fairly heavily landscaped between the two. You've got a hedge and quite a bit of plant material in here, so I wouldn't be concerned about those feeling. It looks like you're kind of sneaking between the plant line to get into that space over there. So I think I'm okay with that. But I would do it. I think you've done a great job of screening the south edge of landscaping. I think I can support all of that. And again, I think if you can reduce any place where you can reduce any of the hardscape or pathways, retaining walls, I would try to achieve that as best you could. So I think it looks good. I can support it.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so think first of all, when I looked at this plan this time, I thought of Tivoli in Italy in terms of the way we have the lower pathway, more motor court and the higher road and things like that, and that large stair that comes down into that garden space. So, which I think is, 1500s or 1600s, whenever that was, and it's still there, is fabulous. So, but I do think that there's a way to allow there to be hardscape to the northern part as they're trying to get into the property, and soften it up on the south side below the guest house and the garage. And I think that, number one, that would be more consistent with the rules that this property is operating on, and I think is probably going to give you the opportunity to absorb grading in a way that you might not otherwise have. Now, the question that I have is, I'm happy to let you go on, but I don't know if we would want this to go on without the Planning Commission seeing that actually rendered. So that maybe as an alternative, or maybe as the only project that we send to them. And Kimberly, Sean, do you want to comment about that if we're talking about that long retaining wall there to the south of the guest house? What your recommendation to us and to the applicant would be about how to deal with that? In terms
I'd
of
like to defer to the planner if Sean is available.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thanks, John. I think it would be, I'd be interested to see the renderings without the wall and understand how that affects the grading quantities. And if it results in a reduction in, more adherence to the natural contours of the site. Certainly if the applicant wanted to do some type of like comparison exhibit or something, we could do that. Or if they just wanted to move forward with the changes, that's fine. I don't know. Before we moved on to, I just had one other comment. I was wondering if Britt could speak to the plate heights in the dwelling and the amount of cut occurring like on the north side of the dwelling, and how that affects grading, and whether there's any opportunity to reduce cut associated with the dwelling, if maybe the plate heights could be lowered at all.
Britt? Britt, you're not on. I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if you're muted.
Okay, so the plate height on the main residence, the center portion there is 15 feet. Now, when I introduced this project last time, I went through it from an aesthetic standpoint, wherein, we were modeling this on the Alhambra. All of our footprints of our rooms were based on a square, a double square, and a square root of 3 rectangle. Those then have a corresponding ceiling height with them. So this room is based on those proportions. And that was a generator of the project, was to be very consistent with those proportional studies. So that set the finished floor of that building. I don't think that it's extreme, a 15-foot light, and the amount of grading that it would change to go to 12 isn't substantial within the overall quantities that we have.
Okay. Alhambra is up, Tivoli is down. So, okay, so what does the board feel about exploration of this lower wall between the guest house and the garage and the south property line? Do we want to see, I would want to see that as an exhibit at least, or comparison for the Planning Commission before sending it off. Do other members agree with me on that, or is that just my own opinion, please? Anybody?
For me, it's not a a deal breaker. I like the concept better, especially if it reduces grading. But I think for them to move forward, for me, I don't think it's a absolute necessary.
Anybody else?
I
I would-
agree. I think that landscaping and such will ameliorate any issue with respect to that.
I agree with Don and Dave.
So
Same,
so 4 members out of 5 believe that we should send this project along as it is. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, we have a concept review, so there's no motion. Sean, do you have everything you need, please?
Yeah, good on my end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Okay, item number 2, 808 San Ysidro Lane. Elizabeth, are you on, please? Ah, there she is. Okay, so provide plan depicting and comparing existing and proposed hardscape. Provide plan clearly demonstrating where landscape will be removed and new landscaping proposed. Reduce the amount of paving. Provide details with walls and gates. Generally, the board does not support 2 driveways. Provide argument for the need to have 2. Elizabeth and Amy are on this project, if I remember. Elizabeth?
So I will just give a little brief description of what we did. And there is a site plan that denotes the adjacent properties. That it seems the typical layout is to have at least 2 entries onto a property, and one of the properties on the other corner has 3. So I showed you the little red dots, and there'll be 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. I think I counted 7 in the vicinity that all have 2 entries. And so, Amy, you want to pick up as to what we're trying to achieve here?
Yeah, I think I could get started. Can we go back to the first sheet, please?
Yep.
Just to kind of remind everybody of the project, that picture in the upper left-hand corner is the existing non-compliant parking that's right on adjacent San Ysidro Road. Within the scope of our project, we're proposing to eliminate that parking and actually run that small retaining wall where it is closest to the street, actually along that line, correct, and then dive back in for the existing gate, which we would propose to transition to a service entry as it dives directly into the garage with very little access to the actual entry. There is also, if you look at the middle picture there, and it's a little bit tough to see, but look just to the right of the one we were looking at, there's a really significant, beautiful oak tree that sits right there that kind of stays right in the corner of San Ysidro and Las Tunas, and it's gorgeous, and we want to stay away from it. So that is starting to kind of limit our options in terms of creating a new entrance, which I will get into more why we need that. If we could go to sheet number 4, please. So this is the demo plan, and what I wanted you to notice with it is you see the section of parking that's right adjacent San Ysidro Lane, and you go in right now, and there's that little weird portico, and you walk up some stairs, and you go to the entrance of the house, which is there. The existing parking you see goes straight to the garage and dumps you into a side of the house where you really can't get to the entry. The new owners would like to create a new sense of arrival for the property, which really, again, because of the location of that really amazing oak tree that's right on that corner, really limits the options in terms of what we're doing there. If you could go back, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing on sheet number 1. On the bottom right-hand picture, in the very bottom row at the right, that is an existing paved area that is just to the south side of the house. So you see the little weird entry portico over in the distance and then the big oak tree. So this is all there right now. And what we're proposing to do is actually come in and create that being a driveway surface. So if we could go to page number 2. please. Your navigational skills are excellent, Bill.
Thanks. Lots of practice.
I bet. So as I pointed out, we've got this big tree here. There's another oak tree there, just adjacent to it. There's some utility lines that exist right off of Las Tunas. So really our only other point of entry to try to create an actual entry to this house was to go down east on Las Tunas and create a new entry drive at that location. So we've got some entry walls, new gates, and a much reduced parking area from the last time you saw the project. And that would lead you into a central feature, which turns you and actually gets you into the house, which is not something that exists at this point. So we previously in the south area there, you had asked for a reduction of the hardscape. We've basically taken it down from what we previously proposed. At that south entrance, we've reduced the paving almost 1,500 square feet. And then at the what will now be the service entrance, we've reduced it 150 square feet. And that includes taking away all of that parking as well on that side. If you go to sheet number 3 again. Please. Elizabeth has provided our elevations of the entry gates with some stone veneer at the service gate, which would match the existing, and it's a little bit more diminutive. And then the new Las Tunas elevation, which would have plaster walls with the stone cap. There are some additional pedestrian gates proposed at both of those locations, and as well as chain link fencing that's going to go around the property line around the San Ysidro edge and Las Tunas edge. It's going to be covered in ligustrum hedging. So the pictures on the bottom right of the sheet show what it'll look like at the time of planting and then what it'll look like once it's grown in. So we really need to create a sense of privacy in this house since there, at this point there really isn't, and there's really no way to get from the road to the house at all. So that, I think, concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. For this round, I'm going to call Bill, Dave, Don, Tip, and then myself. Questions, Bill, please.
Yes. If you could explain, it looked like you had paving in this area here. Is that correct? Is this all paving? Or?
It is. There's a bit, it's kind of a big area of asphalt with chip seal across the top of it. And I don't, it was there and nobody's quite sure why, but it's been there the whole time.
And do you, how do you get to it? Was there a driveway at some point?
There wasn't.
No?
I really have no idea what, if it was just maybe outdoor landscape space. I'm really not sure.
And how far over does it come? Over to this area here somewhere?
It's probably, see the little patio off the house on that corner? If you drew a line from that corner, yeah. If you drew a line from that corner of the house out to the street, that's about where it is. And that's about where our new driveway is going to be.
Okay, all right. So it's already paved with that material.
Correct.
That was all I had question-wise. Thank you.
David?
I don't have any questions, John. Thanks.
Don?
No questions.
Tip?
Yeah, so right now there's only one entrance to the property, am I right, from San Ysidro?
Correct.
Yes.
And the address is 808 San Ysidro.
Yes.
San Ysidro. And you are trying to create the second entrance off Las Tunas to the project at the main entrance.
Correct.
So how would you address
how would the property, we would probably.
Yeah, because you know what, if anyone come to 808 San Ysidro, how do we know if we go to Las Tunas to come to the front door?
You know, can I get this one, Amy?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we met with the fire department to make sure that what we were proposing was something that they could work with, and likely we'll have to change the address to Las Tunas. But we walked the site. We talked about the different options that we had, and so we've already gotten preliminary approval from the fire department. So in the initial conversation, it was likely that we were going to have to change the address.
Additionally, we've spoken with Public Works also, and they are, we're cleared with them with the addition of a little DG path that's going to be included on the San Ysidro Lane portion of the property.
Thank you. That was my question.
Okay, and when we have two gates in Montecito, this board has typically asked that one gate be clearly the guest gate, etc., and the other gate clearly be the service gate. I see two gates that are, for all intents and purposes, of equal stature. Do you have any comment about the fact that the board normally asks for a more decorative and a less decorative gate, please? Anybody?
Well, one thing I know, originally we had proposed a taller gate for the Las Tunas elevation to try to create a little bit more of a heightened space there, but because of the corner lot, we are actually in the front yard setback there, so we had to reduce the height of it per our planner.
And we are trying to look at, the possibility of pushing that back a little bit, but we haven't met with the owners. But yes, we originally had the Las Tunas at 8 feet, and we're surprised when we realized that this needed to be reduced to 6. So.
Very good. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board on 808 San Ysidro Lane, please?
John, I haven't received anything and no one's here with their hand up.
Excellent. Okay, comments. Bill, please.
Yeah, to John's point, maybe it's a question with a thought. If the stone was on the Las Tunas gate and plaster with a slightly diminished height was on the San Ysidro gate, I know you had mentioned something about an archive, a history of the sandstone there already. Is there sandstone on some of the wall that you're maintaining?
There is sandstone at that part of the property and the site walls in that location.
Got it. Okay. So maybe it's more of a height thing. I think, generally speaking, I could support this. I think, as we said, service gates, tend to be less visible. This one certainly has a wider throat and better landscaping. So I think that does still read. The fact that you already had paving there, sort of, and in a way you're actually reducing the amount of paving, makes it a lot easier for me to approve what you've got shown here as well as I appreciate you showing us the neighborhood and the number of double gates and triple gates in some cases, and in the fact that it's fairly separated does help as well. A lot of times when they're really close, they don't make a lot of sense, but this one I think does. It actually allows you to reduce some of the paving on the site. So in that respect, I think I can support what you've got shown here. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, David, please.
Yes, I'm going to agree with Bill that in general, as a board, we discourage 2 driveway entrances, but given the fact that these are on opposite ends of a corner and quite far away from each other, and you've demonstrated that the neighborhood context, there's a lot of properties with this situation, I can support this. I really like the landscape, and I think it's a very nice project for the client, and is a great improvement of what's there now, especially that chip seal driveway just out there to nowhere. I had one other comment. What was that? Yeah, I like the project. And on the diminishing the driveway gate, you might consider not having the stiles and rails and just having the vertical boards at the frame. Another option would be to not have the columns higher on either end. That might help differentiate it between the other gate. But overall, I think it's a great project. I can support it.
Don, please.
Thank you. I certainly agree with Dave that the 2 gates being not on the same street essentially does eliminate the need for, or the appearance of 2 for 1. And it just seems that they're different enough architecturally that they won't be perceived as to the same residence. I think getting rid of the chip seal and all that and the landscaping is certainly a major improvement. So I can support this project as submitted.
Tip?
I'm in agreement with comment from Bill, Dave, and Don, and my concerns had to do with the address. And I think if the applicant is in the process of changing it to last Tunis, then that should work for me. Thank you.
Okay, and I generally agree with everybody. I think that the service gate should be toned down, the gate itself. What I see a lot around town is just simple vertical, like 1x6 or 1x8 or something like that. Sometimes it has a V groove in it, but just really toned down. There's no question about it. And if you change the address to something to do with Las Tunas, whatever the number is, I think that that will really establish as a great project here. Now, we have asked for public comment, have not received it, and we are on for preliminary. Would somebody like to yes?
But I ask one more thing too. I don't know if we addressed it, but the oak tree and the impact on the oak, I would imagine, Amy, you're
We've been talking with Bill Spiewak all along and kind of going, he's been monitoring the tree and we've run these proposals by him. Actually, I believe the initial proposal that you had seen previously, he had actually been comfortable with, and this is less paving and less of a impact to the oak. So I will make sure he gets a copy of this though.
Great. I just wanted to make note of that in case we hadn't discussed it. So anyway, sorry. Thank you.
So we are on for preliminary. Would somebody like to make a motion? And I believe this should go to the consent calendar for final. I don't think we need to see this. If somebody disagrees, please step up.
I agree. I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with the applicant to study the service gate and to study ways of diminishing that gate relative to the main entry gate, and that the project come back to the board on the consent agenda for final approval.
I'll second that.
And under discussion, do we want to ask the Bill Spiewak provide a letter that they could attach to the plans? Would that be something we'd like to do just to make sure that?
Sure.
Isn't the letter attached already, Amy?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I'll make sure that happens as well for consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
Excellent. All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Okay, item number 3. We had a site visit here today at near 495 East Mountain Drive. And we had quite a contingency up there. Do we happen to have the planner with us today?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, can I read the minutes, please?
Oh, yep.
Okay, site visit required, which we did. Consider alternate locations, which we talked about on the site. Paint data collector unit to match pole color. Okay, so who is going to be representing this project today, please? Somebody?
Yes, me. My name is Olivia Gutierrez. I'm with SoCal Gas. I'm the project manager.
Okay.
Get out in the field.
And you had that very attractive overreach on the blouse today. So, okay, so many of us saw this project. I think you could just go over it fairly briefly and we can pick it up from there, please.
So we are proposing to install a new pole on Montecito Water District's property for our advanced meter equipment. And this is the wireless equipment that reads all the gas meters in our service territory, specifically down below from where this location is on East Mountain Drive. And our site visit was to just go over the proposed location and ensure that it wasn't very visible from the road.
Okay, excellent. May I ask a question to Paige, please? Are you on?
I'm here.
Okay. Have you had any communications with the applicant since the site visit this morning?
I have.
And can you tell us the nature of those conversations and just fill us in on what you're about, et cetera, please?
We discussed the location, the proposed location of the pole, and I explained that if the proposed location is going to be within the critical root zone of any coast live oak trees, or is going to be closer to the ESH as mapped by Rincon, then we will reevaluate the proposed location to ensure that it complies with any environmental policies in the Montecito Community Plan or the MLUDC.
Okay. Tip, Bill, and I had the opportunity to visit today, so I'm going to get us at the top end of questions and comments, and then we'll go from there. So Tip, do you have any questions, please? Tip? Tip, you're muted, please. Tip, you're muted. There you go.
I got it. No, I have no question. I've seen enough this morning.
Okay, Bill, please.
Question two, is it Paige Planner? Paige?
Yes.
Yeah. There was discussion out at the site, moving it closer to Esh. Is that a deal killer? You said you would evaluate your findings. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean it goes back to substantial hearing? Is it backtracking from where they've gotten to so far? I mean, how difficult and challenging is that for them, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, so we would want their environmental consultant to opine on to what extent the proposed new location encroaches on the critical root zone. If there's significant encroachment on the critical root zone of any protected tree, we would ask them to revise their proposal and not have it have significant encroachment, because that would be inconsistent with county policy.
So just to reiterate that too, I mean, understanding when we do development that we're allowed up to 20% into a critical root zone, is that correct or not? Are rules different with this kind of a structure and the function of their radio frequencies, et cetera, or do they follow the same guidelines? I guess it's critical root zone or canopy +6 or something to the sort. Is that correct? Are they pretty much the same requirements?
Yeah, so we would apply the requirements that are applicable to land use permits, since this project did not qualify for a simple zoning clearance because there was proximity to ESH. So we're evaluating it as under the land use permit requirements, which you're correct, significant encroachment would be 20%. So whether or not the proposed pole would encroach 20%, I don't know if it would. So it could go forward. It could not. We would just revised analysis and to look at the specifics of the proposed new location, just for consistency with environmental policies. So unfortunately, I can't say definitively yes or no at this time, but I can just say it would require further study.
Okay.
But it is a land use permit, so it's not a discretionary project with a hearing beyond what we've determined that we would like MBAR to weigh in on this one. So we are going before you, but there aren't like additional hearings unless the project is appealed.
Yeah, it's already requiring a land use permit regardless, and this would just be a re-review of what has been reviewed already. But in terms of proximity to the ash buffer, the tree is more of the impact concern. There isn't a setback requirement from the ESH necessarily, like do they need to be 165 feet from the ESH or 100 feet from the ESH or 50 feet? Is there a requirement for that, or just as long as they're outside of the ESH, is that good enough?
I believe there is a development standard buffer, and I'm still looking into what that is. I believe it's 100 feet. There needs to be a 100-foot buffer.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, so I know you did not have a chance to make it today, Don, but do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I do not. Thank you.
And the same for you, Dave. Do you have any questions?
No, I do not have any questions, John. Thanks.
Okay. I have comments, but not questions. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the proposal for the SoCal Gas Company pole, which is located north of 495 East Mountain Drive, please?
John, I didn't receive anything and no one has their hand up.
Okay, very good. Tip, do you have any comments, please?
Well, actually, I do not, and I'm fine with the way they are proposing the port, the location they are proposing.
Okay, Bill, please.
Yeah, I think when we were out at the site, having them move the site, the pole for us was great. Appreciate you doing that. And in the second position, which was closer to the ESH and closer to the oak tree, I think it screened it better. So my preference would be to be able to move it over. If that is too much of a hardship and just can't be done, certainly we can't sacrifice the ESH buffer to do that, then I would be okay in its current location. But if there is an option to move it toward the oak, I would vote for that as my primary.
Don?
Thank you. Because of a prior appointment and the fact the meeting was moved a week, I was not able to be there. So I really don't feel comfortable having an opinion at this point.
Okay, excellent. David, please.
Yeah, since I was unable to visit the site today, I will defer to the other board members as well.
Okay, my comment is the following. The three of us, plus, I don't know, it was like 12, 15 people from the applicant's team, met up at the top site, which is completely disturbed. I mean, there's a parking lot, there's a building, there's a fence. I mean, it's completely disturbed. And well within the 111-foot ESH boundary. So if that was able to get approved, I don't know why something else can't. Then we all went down to East Mountain Drive and looked at it from two different locations. One, pretty basically at the bottom where that property line symbol is at the bottom of that page, and then over to the right of that and looked up. There is no question that there is less visibility if the pole moves over to the right-hand side of that pad. Now, having said that, we all love oak trees. And when you're out on the site, it's extremely clear that driveway pad or parking pad, whatever that thing is up there, is more than 6 feet above the base of the tree that's down the slope a little bit. It's probably 8, 10, 12 feet. And if their footing is only 6 feet deep, there is no way that the bottom of that caisson or footing is going to get anywhere near any tree root. It's just not going to happen. So I think that if the planners did not look at the project from both on the pad and down below where it's extremely obvious where the root zone is, and the fact that anything they do anywhere on that within that chain link fence up there is not going to have anything to do with this oak tree. I think it is, from an aesthetic standpoint of view, which is what we're supposed to be doing here, is the superior location. So, Kimberly, please, are you on?
I am on.
Thank you. I have no interest in delaying this project. But on the other hand, I don't want to be bureaucratic about this, because I know that this pole location about where the word one or the number 111 is on that is going to have any effect. So can you provide some guidance on how we might be able to get this in the aesthetically superior place without this causing undue hardship for the applicant, please?
Well, I think that the planner is addressing that by getting potentially a report or other analysis. I don't think it needs to be extensive, but at least some analysis that the aesthetically superior location is balanced with protection of native vegetation. And I think if there's evidence put in the file that supports that, then yes, it could be relocated to the aesthetically pleasing if it doesn't sacrifice habitat.
So that's it's a one-page report, correct? Potentially?
Potentially, it obviously will be up to the arborist or the biologist to document and do as much documentation as they feel professionally appropriate.
Okay, and is the applicant online, please? Olivia?
Yes, I'm here.
We met the person I kept calling the critical root zone guy. Is he an arborist? Is he, does he have those qualifications or not?
I can't speak for that, but I believe he is on the line. Jerry?
Jerry? If you're muted, maybe?
Or maybe,
yeah.
there he is, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm an environmental planner, but I do not have the title of arborist. So I would not want to, we do have other people in our RINCON who can do that, and it is feasible, but I would not want to make an opinion on this issue.
Okay. So members of the board, it was very obvious to me that this is a location that's acceptable. What do we want to do about this? Because I want to keep these guys moving too. Anybody got an opinion?
Well, I mean, if they could get it to be moved without a lot of fuss, I guess, for lack of a better word, I would say move it. If they can't and their hands are tied, like so many of these things that we look at, I would say approve it in the location that it is currently proposed.
And are you saying that they should be making a good faith all out effort to do this, or so they can't just kind of shine it on to move on? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say, take the next step, at least with an arborist letter and a note to the planner. And if planning is okay with the arborist report and the new location without it impacting the SH, then go for it. If there's a roadblock at any one of those points, whether it's arborist or the ESH buffer, then it goes back to the position that they've proposed now.
And was that a very long motion that you just made?
It was a very long, do I need to repeat that?
And Chip, since you were out there, would you be willing to make a second to that?
Yes, I will second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion? I think that that's the right approach. Good faith effort, work hard, and if you can't, get it, but I think that's the right answer. So is there any further discussion, please?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And so this is for both preliminary and final. Is everybody aware of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thanks all. Good luck with that, everybody.
Sharp
Thank you very much.
Sharp does what?
Abstains.
Okay, and David, did you want to abstain or did you want to stay in on it?
I can stay in on it based on
Okay,
the other board
excellent.
members.
Okay, thank you all. Item number 4, 1987 Burnham Wood Drive. Clay, I think I saw you on earlier. Are you there? Clay, are you there?
Actually, it's I'm filling in for Clay. This is Greg
Oh.
Crispin. I'm an architect with his office.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So,
Sorry, can you repeat your name?
Greg Crispin.
Thank you.
thank you, Greg. So do we have, okay, here we are. Excuse me. Architectural and landscaping changes acceptable. One member suggested gating one or both driveways and reducing the width of at least one driveway to 10 feet. So, Greg, the floor is yours, please.
As far as the architecture goes, it's going to be real brief. We could just go through the plans. They were accepted. The changes were acceptable last time. We haven't made any changes to the architecture. We've added some details for the doors and windows and the door and window schedule. Other than that, there are no changes. It's the same as you saw last time in September. So with that, I think that we could go right into the landscape then.
So do you have the architectural details you mentioned?
I don't see.
I didn't see them when I reviewed the drawings earlier.
I think I don't see the architectural details either.
It was a more current set that was sent to Kathleen, our planner, last week. Is there not a set there?
No, it seems to be mostly
With the date of 128?
Okay.
I don't have those.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. I mean, you got to deal with what's in the world before us. So landscape, please.
Sure, I'm with Bosky. This is Kira with Bosky, landscape architect. So the last time you guys saw these plans was September 23rd. We haven't changed the landscape. I think the reason we're back at the full board is there were some administrative issues where they had attached the architecture back onto the LUP. So we're back to the full board before it was slated to go to a consent agenda. But just a quick refresh. We have a pool. This is in the Burnham Wood community. Obviously, it's been reviewed by them, and we have preliminary approval from them. And so this sheet shows the pool, kind of where number 10 is. That was where an existing pool was located. And if we can flip down to the next sheet, let's see. Yeah, so we have the kind of preliminary grading plan you guys had reviewed and Burnham has reviewed. Next sheet, please. Let's see. Planting plan. So yeah, the visible front garden area along Burnham Wood Drive. We're refreshing with new ground covers, grasses, just kind of replacing some kind of outdated planting along there. One of the comments from the board, which we could address, was to study the addition of a gate along Crocker Sperry Drive. There's a utility driveway area there. We did look at that, and we kind of quickly realized it was going to be a pretty substantial project in itself. There's existing plaster walls. That's an all existing concrete drive, which we don't plan to, to renovate. And when we feel like the improvements we're doing at the Burnham Wood entry will be enough to kind of signify that that's the main entry. And I apologize, there's some renderings and sections that were on our last plan set that you guys had reviewed before, showing all those improvements. This plan is one of our building sets. We're kind of going through that process now as well. The next sheet, please. Yeah, sorry, one more sheet, thank you, or two more sheets, please. The lighting plan. Yeah, so this is existing, or sorry, proposed lighting that you guys had reviewed last time. We're not proposing anything that's viewed from the streets besides that one light that's on the right-hand side. That's where the new wall is at the Burnham Wood entry. Yeah, along Burnham Wood, actually, I'm sorry, to the right of the roundabout. There's just one downlight kind of signifying that freestanding plaster wall, an architectural wall with the address markers there. And that's concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so are you all finished, everybody? Okay,
so
excellent. For this project, Don, Dave, Tip, Bill, and myself. Questions? Don, please.
I have no questions. Thank you.
David.
No questions, John. Thanks.
Tip?
Thanks.
I didn't hear that, Tip. What?
No question.
Nothing? Okay. Tip, your audio is not as good as one might hope. Bill, please.
No questions. Thanks, John.
And I have a question. Where are you in the global approval process? Are you in the building department yet? Have you come out at all? What's going on with your timing of that? Timing, please.
I can take that, I guess. So yeah, like I said, we had gone through, preliminary approval, and we were slated to come back for consent agenda. And then we ran into an issue where the architectural improvements, the windows and doors weren't attached to the LUP. And so they ended up doing that. And then we ended up finding out we actually needed to have that on the beginning. So we had to come back to the full board, which we're happy to do. But so we actually went ahead and started the building submittal process, anticipating that we would be eventually given final approval from the board. And so that's kind of where we're at. We haven't received our any feedback letter from building, but we are submitted in building, expecting to have revisions or a revision.
And Greg, you are on mute. Do you concur with that comment?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Questions from anybody in the audience for 1987 Burnham Wood Drive, please? Anybody?
No, no, John, thank you.
Okay, so comments, please. Don.
Thank you. I think this is an approvable project, and I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. David, please. David Medro.
I agree. I think the project, both the architecture and the landscape are acceptable and look good. It's unfortunate that the details aren't included in the set, but I think maybe
I have an idea about that. Okay.
Yep.
So Tip.
Great.
No other comments. I'm fine with the project.
Okay, Bill, please.
Yeah, I'm okay as submitted, and if they want to come back for final.
They're on preliminary final right now, so.
Yeah, we can't give them final without the details. So,
Okay.
Is there a color board? We don't have any of that either, do we? Missing color boards and.
So I could speak to the color board for the landscape at least. I don't know about the architecture, but that was in the previous plans for preliminary, or sorry, yeah. So the last MBAR meeting, like I said, this was we're kind of in a weird spot with the LUP. So this is basically the building submittal, the latest plan from them, but we could attach that, of course, for MBAR.
Okay, so my idea just went out the window, and which is fine. It's happens to me all the time.
The proposed finishes are to match the existing, so nothing on the exterior of the building is changing. It's to match all existing. I think the only difference would be the windows and doors will be black to update a pretty dated vinyl.
Yeah, and that's called out on the plans. Okay, members of the board. Sharon, I have a question, please.
Yes.
Is there room on this coming week's consent calendar if they came back then? And can they, is there time for them to get stuff submitted before that meeting, et cetera? It's only 7 days from now.
I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Yep.
Okay, I think that what we should do is to put you on final, give you preliminary, get you final on consent. Let's get all the colors called out. Let's get all the plant material. I think Claire will be back by that time. We'll be able to have a good solid shot at her opinion, which we don't now. So can I have, is that okay with the applicant? I don't see that it's going to hold you up. That's why I asked about the timing earlier.
That works.
Thursday.
Yeah, it's 1 week from today. Okay, so is there a motion for preliminary approval with final on consent, please?
I'll make the motion to give them preliminary approval to come back for final on consent with details.
Okay, and second?
I will second that. Thank you.
Okay, and members on the applicant team, you have a very small window to get those materials into Sharon, or you're going to be on in 3 weeks, not 1 week. So please work with that, and we'll see you soon. Okay, thank you.
You need, Mr. Chair, you need to take a vote. There was a motion and a second.
We had Bill and
Don.
No
and I apologize for not a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
So, so for the applicant, just tell Kathleen Volpe that I said it was all right.
But get them in soon, please, to give them a chance to look at it.
We submitted the updated drawings on Friday.
Okay.
To your plan. Make sure your planner gets them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you all. Okay, so item number 5 has been continued, I believe at the applicant's request, but it's been continued no matter what. Item number 6, 1508 East Mountain Drive.
We are here. Thanks, John.
Anybody? Okay, excellent. So site lighting is excessive. Clarify landscape plan. So I had a chance to review the plans the whole set of plans prior to this meeting. Has anyone else taken that opportunity?
I have too.
And my comment, the reason I comment about that is I believe that everything is okay except the lighting, which is where we should focus our attention. Do you agree with that, Bill?
I do.
Okay. So, Steve, can you guide us to which sheet that is on? It was towards the end of something.
L1.03. You hear me okay?
I can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's coming in real slow here.
I think it's the last one on your page on there.
I think we did break them up by discipline.
That's civil. So it's probably the last landscape, but just putting through here because they're big files, I think.
Yeah, this is a huge project. So, Steve, are you the only one from the applicant team?
No.
Okay.
Steve Fort with Suzanne Ellis Planning and Permitting. Also with me today from Rios Architects is, I'm not going to go into the last names, but Bertia, Craig, Paulina, Kimberly, and Elisa. You found it.
Okay, excellent.
You know, they did, can I just comment real quick?
Yes, please.
And I know you've seen it and you're going to have comments, but you know, my review of it, it looked like they reduced the path lights by about 50%. They reduced a lot of the step lights. They reduced the driveway surface washer lights. There aren't any lights in the yard below the house. I do want to point out, you know how it's kind of it is a U or a C-shaped house. That whole courtyard area behind the house, it's kind of like egg-shaped. You know, that is indeed behind the house and very much shielded by oak trees back there, just to kind of give you a context of, that's quite an enclosed area there within the C of the house, that egg-shaped area. But I did just want to, you know, give a quick overview that it does look like, well, they did reduce a significant amount of the lights, but.
Okay, so Who would, from the applicant team would like to address the board? Is it Steve or is it somebody else, please?
Is that you, Alyssa?
Yes, I'm here.
Elisa Reed, there we go.
Okay, Elise. Okay, so would you like to further Steve's introduction, please? About this?
About the lighting?
I think the truth is we're down to one issue, which is the amount of site lighting. So let's just get on that and go for that, please.
Okay. Like Steve mentioned, we definitely reduced it significantly from previous lighting design that we had. If you would like to point out where you believe we have excessive lighting, then we can definitely address that specific area. Our path lights are fairly spread out and only directly below the house for a site access around the property. Like Steve, the area, this whole area in here is completely obscured by the canopy of oak trees, as well as in here. And so, and this section in here. And so the majority of the site is very densely covered with oak trees. And views to the site really are only from when you arrive all the way at the top of that drive. And very far away, you could potentially see the top of the house. But it is, we understand that the need for dark skies, and so we're willing to comply anymore. And we thought we were being light on that. The type of light we're using are also dimmable, all of them, and pointing down.
Is that it for your presentation? Okay, we are on for final. So, Tip, would you like to lead off with questions, please?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Bill?
No questions, but comments later.
Okay. Don, please.
No questions. Thank you.
And Dave, please.
Is the wattage of the fixtures listed in the submittal?
We have the specifications of the lights, the cut sheets on the lights. And that's a different sheet.
Are they in the set?
Yes. Look, said over here on page 34.
Oh.
So this section here has all the cut sheets of the lights.
Bill, could you look at the tree light just as an example to see if it specifies?
Can you go over that, please,
Yeah,
Elisa?
look at these as well here. I
So
don't know.
number 3, the tree mounted light will be, there's 2 types. There is this pendant light, number 2, the hanging light, which are pendant, and the tree mounted light.
I can't read those.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
have
read
to open
them?
my own drawing.
Yeah, they're the resolution.
Can you go up on the sheet, Bill? I think that there's a schedule up above that may have right there. Does that have the wattages on it? No.
No. I was
Okay.
curious about these 3 lights myself.
They are all low voltage.
And while we're here, my other question was, are all the lights down facing? For instance, that number 3, the image is pointing up, but are you using all these fixtures in the downward direction?
Correct. They're strap mounted to the branches and facing down.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, and I also was interested in that, but I think we'll just pick it up in comments. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board on 1508 East Mountain Drive, please? Okay, nobody. So we are on for final. Tip, comments, please.
I have no comment, and I think this is ready for final approval as submitted. Unless other board members have any comments, I would like to make a motion for approval as submitted.
Bill,
Yeah, without seeing what the wattage is in these, I am a little concerned about the number that are hanging in the trees here, and maybe what we've been doing is reducing these, one or so in a tree canopy at most, not three, and also limiting the height to 12 feet so that they don't go out and beyond the properties. This one was interesting too, this outdoor lamp, which I know is an architectural feature. It'd be interesting to see what kind of wattage you have there. The downlights, I don't have any problem with the path lights. Path lights are offline. I don't have an issue with the step lights. It's just these that are in the trees here. And these two here that I have concern with. So that's all.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes, I also am concerned about the amount of lights, especially considering the location up on Mountain Drive. And I think we owe it to the neighbors and to our citizens of Montecito to really look into that a little further.
Okay, Mr. Mendro, please.
I'm going to agree with Bill and with Don. I think Bill summarized my thoughts exactly, that I don't, just not knowing the wattage, it's hard to know for sure. But when I look at this plan, it doesn't appear consistent with what we look for in lighting. And, it just appears like we're really lighting the site in the trees. So we need more information. And I think I would want to see a reduction in the amount of the tree lights depending on the wattage.
Steve, let us finish and then you can respond, okay? I concur. I think that we have seen plans like this. There was one on Hot Springs Road on the east side, about halfway up, and that was about this level where they started, and I think they ended up with about a quarter of the number of fixtures when we finally got done with them. So I think this is way too much. Steve, I'll let you jump in here and then we'll try to figure out where to go from here.
Okay, well, I wanted to say, I got a little better copy of the plans here on my screen. And the number 2, the hanging light, well, the previous set of plans said it was 2 watts and it's 150 lumens.
You showed
And then I have the information on the floor lamp one, the architectural feature floor lamp one, and that's 15 watts.
15?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay, so thank you for that additional information. Now, what we have done in the past is that we have assigned 1 or 2 people as a subcommittee to work directly with the applicant, usually in an office or something like that, or it might be Zoom. I think you guys are down in LA, right? Your offices, yeah. To really go over in much greater detail than we can go here. Is that something that we'd like to do here? I'm not willing to vote for this. I don't know. It didn't sound like at least 3 other people were not willing to vote for this.
Well, the only other way, John, we could handle it is they could reduce it further and then come back to consent and keep coming back to consent until they get it right. I don't hate
Yeah, but okay, that's true. We can continue to iterate it, or we can attempt to sit down and really do it. So what is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, with some direction we could give them. And we
You guys want to appoint a subcommittee, or?
Do we just give some direction to reduce these 3 to 1?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so what I believe is consistent with other approvals that we've given is at most 1 downlight per tree, and not every tree in the area lit.
Right.
And the path lights look like they're far enough apart and they're low enough voltage. So in my mind, I think it's really about these tree lights, and also mounted no higher than 12 feet above grade. So is that something, Elisa, that you could work with, or do you need to have somebody more specific here with you?
No, we can work with that. We also have a lighting designer consultant, so we'll work with them.
Okay.
To add to that, John, are we concerned? I don't know about the screening or the visibility of these two lights. There's two here and one here. This one probably not so much because it's in the inner courtyard, but these two are very tall and they're 15 watts. They're going to be like floodlights. I mean, maybe they're shielded more than I can tell, but it's hard to say. Those
It looks pretty light, bright in the image there.
Yeah, and it's 15 watts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these two would be a concern as well. So let's demonstrate those won't impact anybody in the neighborhood.
I agree with that, Bill.
Okay, so Bill and Dave, what do you believe the correct direction for the applicant to take is with these? I think they're kind of cool, I must admit, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to get a lot of brightness out of them.
Right. Well, I hate for them to be a flood. That's all.
I think they need to just come back to us with more documentation that they're appropriate and they're not going to, that they're night sky compliant.
Yeah, and that they don't.
That the wattage is specified for all the fixtures, clearly specified.
They're not too tall that they, even though they're night sky shining down, they're not so tall that they're shining on the neighbor. So maybe proof of that. But they could come back on consent for final.
If everybody remembers, a couple of weeks ago, we kicked an item up from consent to the main board because we were concerned about a roof material. So the consent calendar knows how to push things up to the main agenda. I think maybe we can try that. What I would like to ask is that, Elisa, you and your team, Steve, return a full set with this, again, substantial reduction, particularly in the tree lights, but also please look at everything, and this L6 light. Give us the full set, but please strip out 1 or 2 pages of that has the lighting spec on it, that has just that lighting on it, so that when I reviewed it today, the drawings were extremely slow to load, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can do that, we can look at it. Members of the board, we all get this in the packet. Please take a look at it. Let's look at it on consent. And then if need be, we'll kick it up. But if we kick it up to the full board, it'll be very quick to review if we've all had a chance to look at it. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
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 Steve?
Can we do that next week, Thursday?
Sharon?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but you guys, how fast do they need to turn around the drawings?
I didn't ask them that. I just wanted to come back.
Okay, what? This is a two-sided street here, bro.
I know.
Okay, so how
We'll
fast?
make it work.
Monday.
What? Monday? Sharon, you broke up. When do you need them?
Monday by 12 noon.
Do you understand, Steve? Not 12:01.
I know Sharon runs a tight ship.
Okay, yeah.
Is that okay with you guys, Elisa?
Can you do that? And if not, you're going to be on in 2 weeks after that, okay?
We'll shoot for Monday.
Okay, so do I have a continuance?
Yes, I'll make the motion to continue to consent for final review.
And
comments to the lighting.
And to substantially reduce the number of tree lights?
With a substantial reduction of the number of tree lights and to limit the height to 12-foot maximum mounting.
And what about this L6?
And to provide more documentation on that light fixture if you're going to continue to use it, and to prove that it will not impact the neighbors.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end of the agenda. Now, let's chat about next week. Thank you. Did we vote? All those in favor? Did we vote?
Yeah, we
Aye.
did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's chat about next week. I think we have 14 items.
And we starting at 11 a.m.
Okay, and work through lunch. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to bring our lunch to our desk, and I will have we'll have a break sometime around 1:30 or 2, something like that, for 5 minutes, just so
Sure.
we can get up and stretch our legs and things like that. How's that sound?
Do we have
Sounds
site
good.
visits? Sharon, do we have site visits that day too? Do we, Sharon?
You're
Sharon?
right. One site visit.
Oh boy, long day.
We have one site visit.
Okay, so site visit at 9. I'd love to see everybody there. Please make it if you can. And we'll start at 11 and just rock and
John,
roll.
I did put, and I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I did put time certains in there so people wouldn't sit forever.
Okay.
Good idea.
But they're
Okay.
they're not, it's not unreasonable.
Okay, excellent.
And
So-
last question, Dave, you're gonna be, well, we'll see how you feel next week, I guess. No,
Yeah, I'll check with you. I'm anticipating that I can do it.
whatever you need to, I'm fine.
Yeah, I appreciate you covering.
Yeah.
Okay, and Bill, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And do I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So move.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Hey,
Thanks for sharing, John.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you all.
Right.